Well, thanks, Brian, and good morning, everyone. My name is Rick Jenkins, and I am the Standard Plans Publication Engineer in the Roadway Design Office. This is our annual Standard Plans Update Training. Today, we will go over the changes to the 2023-2024 Standard Plans for both road construction and bridge construction. If you have any questions as I go through the slides, feel free to post in the chat. We will try to monitor the questions and respond. Okay, here's a short agenda of what we will cover today. First, I will give a quick and brief overview of the website and changes that were made to the standard plans this cycle. Then I will go over some of the changes that were made to the standard plans in a little more detail. Then Richard Stepp will cover updates related to both lighting and barriers. And Joshua Turley will cover some of the structures and bridge related updates to the standard plans. All right, let's start with a quick reminder about our website. Here you can see the web address. Hopefully all of you are familiar with the address and our website. We really didn't make any major changes to the website this year. This is still our main page for both the road and bridge construction. This is where you can access the current version of the standard plans and the SPIs, previous versions of the standard plans. You can also access DGN files for each of our indexes, the archive design standards, which were replaced with our current standard plans about 6 years ago. You can also access any standard plans that are under review here on this page. And as always, if you have any questions regarding standard plans and you don't know exactly who to contact, you can always contact myself or our state standard plans engineer, Durwood Shepard. Our contact information is at the bottom of the page. Here you can see where the track the status revision link is located. Because this review process is already complete and these changes were already made and posted, the information that would normally be there has been moved to the archive where past year revisions are located. Here is all the links, and here is the 2023-2024 link. You can see that we do have quite a few changes, but not many of these changes were policy changes. You can also see the links to the comments and response forms here. Since these changes were not policy changes, I'm not going to cover every change in the update training today. I picked some of the major changes as well as a few projects that require coordination with multiple offices. I do want to show you how to find the latest edition of the standard plans. The newest release of the standard plans, the 2022-2023 version, is located at the top of the page once you access the standard plans link here. This page is useful as it has the effective date of the release, so you know you are looking at the correct version of the standard plans, a link to the bulletin that released the standard plans, a link to the interim revisions, and a link to the page that has the DGNs and CAD files. Here we can access the latest release that has all of the indexes for road construction and bridge construction. You can see the indexes listed here with links. This is also one of the places you can access the erratas and developmental standard plans. I always want to point out the revision log. Although I will not cover every single revision today, all revisions, sheet by sheet, small or large, are listed on the revision log, which is located on our website. So that is my quick overview of where you can find the changes and a review of the website. Now I want to get into more detail on some of the updates and additions to the 2023-2024 standard plans indexes. As I mentioned earlier, we had a great deal of revisions, but many were minor or just administrative, so I will only cover and review a few of the more critical updates today. One of our biggest projects was done in conjunction with the State Traffic Operations Office and the State Program Management Office to move materials and manufacturer requirements from Standard Specification Section 700 and Standard Plan Series 700 to the Specification Sections 962, 965, and 995. Separating the manufacturer's requirements from contractor's requirements will help with the review of APL product submittals, field installations, inspections, and acceptance criteria. There was some information moved from the Standard Plan 700 series to Specification Section 700 to prevent duplication and to stay consistent with where direction to the contractor is located. Here you can see a list of each spec and index that was revised with this project. I will not go over each index in detail, but I will pick a few to highlight to give you an idea of the changes. If you want details on what changed on a specific index, please refer to the archive link I covered earlier with the origination form and red lines. You can also check the revision log for more details. Here, the cantilever sign structure, index 700040, is an example of what we changed on the 700 series in the standard plans. We deleted notes that were repetitive. We moved the material notes to either specification 962 or 965, and we moved appropriate information from the index to spec 700. There were cases where we moved the information to other sheets in the indexes, like note 5 here. And as you see with our new note 1, we made sure that each index in the series had a note that read something like this: meet the requirements of specification 700. Here's what the finished product looks like. In some cases, like here, a lot of notes have been removed. So the reason I chose this specific index in the 700 series to highlight is that in addition to moving material information to the spec, we did make a few changes at the request of the Structures Office. We added a new note on the weld pattern for the BD plates shown on sheet 2. We also added a couple of callouts on the nuts and washers that were previously in the notes on sheet 1. We made very similar changes to index 700041 span sign structure on the welding pattern and added some splice notes on sheet 5. So check those out as well if you use these indexes much. This index, Enhanced Highway Signing Assemblies, 700-120, was part of the 700 series project, so it had the material notes moved to the specs, etc., like the other indexes in the 700 series. But it also had additional changes. One change was adding the solar power assembly details. The solar power assembly and battery unit for the wrong way vehicle detection is larger and more powerful than the one that is used for a typical enhanced highway signing assembly. As a result, the solar panel must be ground mounted, and a ground mounted UPS or uninterruptible power supply cabinet must be provided. Both the solar panel and the UPS cabinet must be installed close to the right-of-way line outside the clear zone. We also updated the callout references and notes. Here is the new sheet for the new details, updated notes, and revised callouts. We added a new note 4 that directs users back to index 676010 for cabinet installation details. This is a common approach we use to prevent showing duplicate information in multiple indexes. I did want to point out something on one of our temporary traffic control indexes. Index 102604, the 2-lane, 2-way intersection. On this index, we deleted note 6. This note was added to specification section 102-9 to consolidate guidance to the contractor for temporary signal timing. Here on the low profile barrier index 102-120, we had issues and discrepancies with the type of bolt used regarding the tension links in the districts. This led us to add the new tension link detail here on sheet 2. This was another team effort project. Redeveloped index 350-001 as it was in need of an update. There were several items in this index that were outdated or not used. Mary Jane Hayden and the State Pavement Design Office worked with a task team consisting of FDOT staff, design, materials, and construction, and industry partners, suppliers, CEI, and contractors to address details that were no longer needed, items that should remain, and items that should be added. Several of the new details were found to be best practices that were already in use by other state DOTs. There was some general cleanup simplification on all sheets, elimination of outdated or unused details. Here on sheet 1, you can see there were notes moved or deleted, and the contraction joint detail was deleted. Addition of the new joint layout details for the intersections. Here you can see the redeveloped index, including some details that were removed from sheet 2. Next is the red line for sheet 2. Some of these details were moved to sheet 1, and some of the details were deleted. Here is the new sheet 2. You can see the contraction assembly and expansion assembly details moved from sheet 3. Also added the dowel bars cap, the dowel bar layout, and relation of the tie bars to the dowel bars details. The sheet 3 red line shows deleted and moved information. The new sheet 3 shows the joint layouts for different intersections. Here is the new sheet 4 with the isolation joint details. Here is the red line of the old sheet 4, which is now the new sheet 5. Changed note and added new 15-foot dimension to the 2 through lane details. And here is the new sheet 5. The next index I want to go over is index 524001, ditch pavement and sodding. This index was long overdue for redevelopment. Tim Hawley from our drainage group was the official originator on these revisions, even though we have had these updates on our radar for years. We reorganized the index for clarity and to reduce clutter. Moved the joint language to the specifications, which should help clarify the process for construction of joints for slope pavement and ditch pavement. Here on sheet 1, we reorganized the notes and details. Updated the notes to make them plain language and clarify any hard to comprehend language. Moved general note 2 and 8 to the standard specifications, and moved note 5 and the other ditch matting and weep hole details to sheet 3. Here is the final product for sheet 1. It's a much cleaner look with the duplicated notes deleted, and we merged other notes into the specifications. Same thing here with sheet 2. There was no real new data added. We just cleaned up the sheet and reorganized it. And here is the final sheet for the index 524001. This is sheet 3. No new data was added here. It was just reorganized and cleaned up. Next, let's briefly look at index 641-010, concrete poles. Joshua Turley is going to cover this index later, but I wanted to mention a global change that was made to the indexes. Class 5 special concrete was removed from the specifications by the State Material Office, so any reference to this was changed to Class 5 concrete in the standard plans. The next set of indexes include indexes 641-020, 649-020, and 676-010. These changes were initiated by our traffic group over at the TERRL, or the Traffic Engineering Research Lab. These revisions were developed based on implementing maintenance service slabs for ITS cabinets. This was recommended during the Turnpike's TDH migration and integration into statewide criteria. The TDH, or the Turnpike Design Handbook, was integrated into other statewide policy and guidance documents this past year. This process resulted in a lot of changes to the standard plans, specifications, and the FDM. Language was also added to specification 641 and 676 regarding the maintenance service lab. We reorganized 676-010, the cabinet installation details index, and added the maintenance slab details. The update also changed all maintenance slabs to 6 inches in depth. Real quick, here's the new sheet 2 for index 676-010. We added the details for both ground and pole mounted intelligent transportation systems ITS cabinets and service slab requirements. Here's another new sheet for index 676010. This is sheet 3, and it has two new details: the interconnect junction box and a pedestal mounted cabinet. Okay, so next I will go through 641020 concrete CCTV poles. I am not going to cover index 649020 steel CCTV poles because the edits were very similar to 641020 and 676010. See here that the updates were made to add the maintenance slab details like I discussed with index 676010. Okay, here is the final product. You can see we also added note 5 to reference 676010 for more cabinet installation details. And here is sheet 2 with the maintenance slabs added. Now here on sheet 5, we had a few more updates. First, we updated the concrete CCTV pole grounding detail to show the maintenance service slab and the ground mounted and pole mounted cabinet details, just like the other sheets. We also updated the concrete slab callout to maintenance service slab. We added the 6-inch apron and changed title to pool box in detail A. And we added title primary ground rod assembly to detail B. Okay, so here is the updated sheet 5 with all the updates I just went over to the various details. Okay, so that covers everything I wanted to talk about and highlight today. I know this was a very brief and fast-moving overview, so if you need to review any of the changes, please utilize the resources on our webpage. You can still add questions directly to the chat as long as this webinar is active, or you can email me directly if you prefer. We will either respond to all your questions directly in the chat or send out an email with all the questions and responses to the registered attendees. Like I mentioned previously, Richard Stepp and Josh Turley will cover some more standard plan updates now. Richard is up next and will cover some barrier updates and talk about the lighting updates and criteria that he has been working on. Thank you.